I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker. So today our topic for Spark is preparing for a post-COVID world while the pandemic rages around us. And Scott Williams is here today. We're so excited to have him. He joined the team at the Discovery Park of America as president and CEO in 2019. Previously, he served as the president and COO of the Newseum. There we go, in Washington, D.C., where he managed many of the activities taking place in the 7-story museum on Pennsylvania Ave between the White House and the Capitol. Williams earned his degree in journalism from the University of Memphis, and he is a published author, podcast host. If you haven't checked out the Discovery Park's Real Foot Forward podcast yet, you need to because you're missing out. And he is even a TikTok content creator. His daily Today in History videos are pretty captivating, so you need to check those out as well. But I'm going to let Scott take it away.
Thank you so much. Great to get to be with you all. Can everybody hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, cool. I want to share with you my screen. Go over here, share screen, share. I think that will be much more interesting than having to look at me the whole time. I want to share a little bit with you really quickly about what Discovery Park of America is so that it puts everything in context that we're going to talk about. Then I want to hit really quickly how we approached March 17th and beyond when we closed, and then what we're doing now to prepare for a world when we've turned the page and we're no longer living in the middle of a pandemic. I've seen people lately referring to it as the after times. So, we're all looking forward, like you all are, to the after times. So first of all, a little bit about Discovery Park of America. We are literally sitting in the middle of what was once a cornfield in Union City, Tennessee. We're a small town up here in the northwest corner of our state. We're almost to Kentucky. If you want to buy alcohol, you have to drive about 25 minutes over into Kentucky to do so. So we're up here in the corner. We're a small community. Part of the story that I think is really compelling and interesting took place around 2011 when the Goodyear tire plant closed. When they closed, Union City lost about 1,900 really well-paying jobs. So you can imagine how that would devastate any community. Entire families left the town. And when they left, they took with them all the business that doctors and dentists and clothing stores and even healthcare, all the things that they counted on for those families suddenly was gone. And so it really was a community that had been devastated by this. Fortunately, Robert and Jenny Kirkland called Union City home, and they loved their town. They loved their community, even though they both, because of their smart investments and their smart business acumen, they got to travel all over the world as part of his import-exports business. He founded Kirkland's. He ran all different types of businesses, but he never left Union City. He loved Union City as his home. And so he and his wife funded trips to Europe for the senior classes, trips to Washington, D.C., pre-K for underprivileged kids. They really put their invested their money in education. They wanted to create something to leave behind, a big legacy for Union City. And so they pulled together members of the community. And I think this is another really key part of what makes Discovery Park successful is they didn't just take off and do what they thought best. They pulled together members of the community and had focus groups in a local hotel and said, what do you think would be in a center of education in Northwest Tennessee? And so he divided the room up into military, space, dinosaurs, minerals, fossils. He divided it up, and you went to the table that you were the most interested in. And that's how the committees were formed. And the committees worked together to present back to Robert Kirkland, this is what we have decided would need to happen. Well, he invested his money, his time, his energy into what would become Discovery Park of America. It took way longer than he expected, and it cost way more. What I've heard is that he really anticipated spending around $30 million in Discovery Park, but by the time it was all over with, he had invested $100 million and then some. So it was really a passion for him. There's a lot of stories that I can't share them all today of how he walked around, and when he would see something that he felt like was lacking, he would demand that it be fixed. And so it really was a labor of love for him. On opening day, December 2013, he made a quote that we really consider our North Star. Discovery Park should enhance education for children as well as adults and do it in an entertaining way. I hope it will be a destination that people will visit again and again and walk away each time with an expectation for continued innovation. And that is really, when we try to decide, should we go right or left? Should we go backwards or forwards? We pull this quote out. I actually have a copy of it on my wall. We look at that, and this is what we live by. Just like that famous movie where they said, if you build it, they will come, in a cornfield. He built it. A lot of people told him he was making a huge mistake. We were very much too far from any type of metropolitan area to draw. And so people said nobody would come. Well, they were wrong. 1.7 million visitors have visited Discovery Park of America since we opened. Our primary feeder markets are Paducah, Jackson, Memphis, and Nashville, with secondary markets, St. Louis and Louisville. But more people come from 2 hours away than come from 20 minutes away. So we're definitely an attractor into this community. We are a 501c3 public charity. We are still funded in part by the Robert E. and Jenny D. Kirkland Foundation. They have both since passed away, sadly. We do have a lot of generous individuals, corporations, and foundations that also help support our efforts. Our mission is to inspire children and adults to see beyond. We do that with our exhibits, with our education programs, and with content that we create and share on social media. This is what, for us, it's really all about. It's the men and women and children of all different races and religions. And, you know, we want everybody to visit Discovery Park of America and be inspired to see beyond. You cannot visit here and not learn something you did not know. And that happens to me still after 2.5 years. Every single day I learn something. I see something and I think, has that always been there? It's absolutely a magical place. But people are not socially distanced in little squares like this appears. They look more like this is actually what Discovery Park looked like post-COVID. And even this is probably a little bit too regimented and organized. This is actually what Discovery Park of America was like post-COVID. So, you know, we had a lot to think about when we had to figure out how are we going to restructure our business. As a person who is passionate about history, I always like to look back. This is from March 7th, 2020. This was our Discovery Awards Gala that we held. It was very successful. We raised a lot of money to be able to implement our mission. But we had all sort of heard about COVID. Of course, it was in the paper. We knew something was about to happen. I made jokes that night about fist bumping people instead of shaking hands. But of course, we had no idea what was right around the corner, literally right around the corner. In the coming days, headlines started popping up. Disney World closed, other places closed. We tried to hang on for a little bit and just talk about our cleanliness, how we had you know, the little hand cleaner things. We started stocking up on hand cleaner and Clorox wipes and had a lot of meetings on, you know, how are we going to make sure people understand that we are safe, and that we hired a couple extra cleaning folks on our housekeeping crew. And we really did focus on that, thinking that we would probably be able to dodge the bullet. Unfortunately, by the time we got to March 16th, it was obvious we were going to have to close. So we announced that we were closing. I think it's funny in retrospect when we said we were going to close on March 17th through March 31st. So we thought we would be open really quick. We thought this was going to get under control. I think one thing that summarizes kind of where all of our heads were on March 17th is this person who posted in response on Facebook to our saying we were closed. I swear, if this virus isn't gotten under control soon, it's going to ruin summer. Well, that person was correct. It did ruin summer and a lot of other things. Really quickly, the strategies that we implemented, and there are a lot of different strategies, as you all know, when you're leading an organization and you're trying to problem solve, you don't always get your strategies all written down into a nice document. But here are some of the strategies that pop into my head when I think about, what we were going to try to do on March 17th, when we all left Discovery Park and we had folks working from home. Nobody other than security was working here in the museum and park. First of all, the most important thing that I think was what I needed to focus on was communication. I had to communicate with my board. I had to communicate with members of the community. We had to communicate with our staff who were wondering, am I going to have a job next week? People were afraid. People were confused. Nobody really knew exactly what was going on. So our leadership team had morning meetings where we tried to disseminate what was going on, what we were hearing, what we were reading, so that we could effectively put together communication tools. Fortunately for us, we had just launched a brand new website like 2 weeks before. Our previous website was very clunky on the back end. The new website was a tool that could easily, you could update, you could post news, you could post information. And so we were able to, fortunately, use the website to communicate a lot of information. And then, of course, we stayed close with the state of Tennessee tourism department and other people in the industry. We also wanted to use our tools to serve the community. We're a member of a much bigger group of folks. And so, Lindsay from the chamber and I did some Facebook Lives where we talked about what business folks needed to know here around here. We worked with the hospital, the local hospital. And so what do you need us to send out to our audience? Because we have some pretty robust lists and social media groups that we could communicate with. So we got the information out about hand washing, about masks, all that stuff that seems so normal now. Back then, it was all new. We shifted our mission to digital right away. The team here, without me even suggesting anything, around March 14th or 15th, when it looked like we might be having to close, they immediately hit the museum and hit outdoors and started recording content. Our social media team was on it. They started recording things because we knew we were going to be working from home for at least 2 or 3 weeks. And so, we wanted to have content that we could continue using what the Kirklands had left behind to benefit the community. So we shifted to digital. We're on all the social media channels. And so we started using those to push content out. And then we needed to take care of our employees, as most of you, who have employees, that none of us knew what exactly was going to happen. Our HR person, Lisa, was really great about staying in touch with other HR folks in the region. We didn't know, are we going to have to lay people off? I spent more time on Excel spreadsheets than I have ever in my life. And, ultimately, we were very fortunate that we didn't need to lay anybody off. And the PPP loan, of course, helped a great deal. But we did continue to pay those people who wanted to continue to work. Some people said, you know what, I'm retired. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I'm going to stay home for now, and I'll see y'all when this is over. And so that was fine. Some people, through one reason or another, left to take other jobs, and we did not replace those positions. So our bench thinned out incredibly over the last year. We also, if somebody wanted to work and if they had a computer, then we put together all different types of projects like our media list. So we would give somebody Arkansas and say, you go through every town in Arkansas, you make an Excel spreadsheet with every radio station, with every newspaper, with every civic group. And so we really worked on making our lists more robust. And then we combined those. So now we have some great communication tools. Our education team, we didn't have students, obviously. So our education team, they worked on things like try to figure out who is every single science teacher, every single science website, every single science blogger, everything having to do with science, so that when we have something science related going on, we can communicate with those people. The other thing I had to do was figure out what can we kick the can. We had to, a lot of projects that we were working on, we had to put a halt to. If it wasn't absolutely necessary, we put a hold on it. And then the team began planning the reopening. Our thinking was people were going to only want to go outdoors when we launched back up on June 1st. We did discover that was not the case, but we did use lots of photos, a lot of imagery, a lot of focus on the outdoors. We worked with a local artist who has some incredible outdoor sculptures that we put out, that we then promoted, lots of things to do outside. And we started fishing. We stocked the lakes here when they opened, but no one had ever fished. It was against the rules. So we started fishing. To kick it off, I actually went out with Tucker, who is Lauren Jones's son, who works here with us in special events. And he taught me how to put a worm on a hook. And we actually cast it out on Facebook Live. And surprise, surprise, I actually caught a fish the very first time I tossed it out there. So that was the way we were promoting things you could do at Discovery Park. We opened up for 2 weeks to members only to come and use the outside, which some people did, but it wasn't the big success we hoped it would be. It wasn't until we actually opened the entire building that it was, that we actually saw decent numbers of people coming back. We also took very seriously the guidelines. Employees here, every single morning, fortunately, we're blessed to have nurses on staff. And so every single morning, we have to go through and we're asked the series of questions. We check off the nurse checks off the boxes and takes our temperature. And we are rigid about this. We do not let people work if they have a temperature, if they've been exposed to someone who has COVID. We're very, very much wear masks. We're very, very rigid about these things. And then, we took this photograph and shared it because we wanted to get the word out. And this was shared all over the country in media as an example of a museum who's trying to gear back up and get opened back up. We were obviously 6 feet apart, wearing masks. And this is when we were going through the training of what opening would be like. We do have signs everywhere. We had a whole Discovery Park of America Cares campaign where we're communicating with people about what they can expect us to be doing, but also what we expect of them. Here's a thing that we did that, quite frankly, didn't really work. We thought, well, the opening of the museum is going well. Let's have a concert, an outdoor concert, and let's have people separate and wear masks. And, through this, we really learned that you cannot have an outdoor concert and have people separate, especially where you have alcohol. And by the end of the night, everybody was just, too close, too few masks. And so we have not done anything else like this since that time. Again, we have the mask, we have expectations, we have signs up. We do expect guests to wear face masks. We say, we do have them for people. What we learned was, because there's a lot of places that aren't following the rules on wearing masks, like they say face masks are required, but it's sort of a wink, wink kind of thing. Well, for us, it's not a wink, wink kind of thing. You have to wear a face mask. So we had to change our signs. These signs weren't powerful enough. We changed the signs to masks must be properly worn at all times, both inside and out. Failure to comply will result in your being asked to leave Discovery Park of America. A lot harsher than the previous sign, but this one works a lot better. We also have security who talks to each and every guest who comes in and says, yes, you have to wear a face mask on. Really, seriously, you really, really do. For a while, we said outdoors, you didn't have to wear it, but people couldn't remember to put it back on. So, we're not trying to be difficult. We're polite and professional and have good customer service throughout the whole way. But we do want people to wear their masks when they're here. And if they have a doctor's note, or if they don't feel like they have to wear one for whatever reason, then we suggest that they just come back and visit us later when there isn't a pandemic going on. So masks have to be worn. I do think it's interesting that it worked. Guests wear masks. We have had in the neighborhood of 125,000 visitors since we opened back up again. And as far as I know, none of our associates has come down with COVID because of their job here. So employees, as you can see on the lower right, they wear masks. They oftentimes wear gloves when they're cleaning. Guests wear masks. If they don't have a mask on, we ask them to please put their mask back up, and they do. They follow. And so I think the fact that we've had 125,000 plus visitors and none of our employees, has gotten sick from work, I think speaks a lot to the effectiveness of wearing masks. Just some really quick stats. Visitorship was down 49% in 2019. I'm sorry, 2020. Revenue was down 52%, but our total income was only down 12%. Our payroll, we were able to cut it down to 8%, and our total expenses were down 32%. So along with our PPP loan, we actually did slightly better in 2020 than 2019 financially. Of course, there's a lot of things that we have to do in the next 3 years because we didn't do them last year. One key thing that has really made a big difference for us is the social content that we're putting up is something that we will do from now on. The Zoom, the shooting, originally we were much more focused on quality and we didn't put as much up unless it was really, really great quality. We've learned that really what people really want to see is just the content. So whether it's educational, we've been doing programs, we've been doing book talks, we've been just running that into the museum on and doing some really great content with some of our talented educators just on the fly and uploading it. And it's really been appreciated by homeschoolers and teachers and parents who are working at home. And honestly, a lot of adults are enjoying the stuff that we're doing too. So right now, the strategies for going forward, we're trying to stay really relevant with our business to business partners. So we reach out to our group travel folks, even though we know they're not doing group travel right now. We're reaching out frequently and saying, "Hey, we're here. We're supporting you. What are you doing? What are you finding?" And getting feedback from them. Our local Chamber of Commerce has been incredibly supportive and helpful. I have found the state tourism department. Mark Azell and his team have been fantastic at helping us. The West Tennessee Restaurant and Tour Association has been really, so anyway, our business to business partners have been crucial to helping us both have resources, but also just emotional support. There are times when as leaders, I know you all know, you need somebody who can say, yeah, this sucks, doesn't it? So that's been really helpful. We've really been working hard on developing systems to get data so we can watch our trends. We are a nonprofit. We are in the tour and travel sector, as well as the museum business. So we stay close with the American Association of Museums. We have some nonprofit groups, nonprofit support groups that we're part of. And so anyway, so in all those sectors, we've been trying to stay really tight with what they're sensing so that we can get an overall idea as we plan going forward. We have tried to spend time gathering and analyzing our own data. How many people visited? What did they do? What did they buy? So that we can plan. What we are seeing is even though we are having less visitors, our per capita is up because we have slightly more affluent people who are visiting and who are walking up to the ticket counter and saying, okay, I want one of everything, as opposed to in the past, people would try to pick and choose. And again, communicate. That is the other thing that I try to remind myself. It's important to communicate, and I jumped over to take care of our staff by accident. Our staff and communicating with them has been really important. We are really like a family here at Discovery Park of America, those of us that work here, and we have had people who've lost, family members. We've had people who have been sick from COVID. And so just supporting them, communicating with them where we are, this is a scary time. And so it's been really important to communicate with the staff where we are and what we're doing and what we anticipate their jobs are going to be like in the next year. You know, there was a moment there where a lot of us didn't know we would have jobs, and a lot of spouses of people who work here lost their jobs, and you know, a lot of kids were home, and so this was a real opportunity to lead with empathy and compassion when you got people who you know, are losing family members, their kids are home. You know, it was a real opportunity for us to come together and develop our team skills and supporting each other. I would not be doing my job if I really quickly, before we answer any questions, if I didn't tell you what we've got coming up in 2021 so that you can plan your visit here to Discovery Park. We work a lot with the West Tennessee Regional Art Center and Bill Hickerson. We have a show that starts at March 1st, Southern Artist Showcase. The Caldwell Collection, works by Southern self-taught artists. If you're a fan of self-taught art, you're going to want to come check this exhibit out. We also have 40 Chances, Finding Hope in a Hungry World, the photography of Howard G. Buffett. This is a part of our new ag exhibit. This is supporting that. It's a really interesting exhibit. Howard G. Buffett, his philosophy is that we all have 40 chances to accomplish our life goals, just like farmers have 40 chances or 40 growing seasons to grow crops. And so, you know, he really this is an incredible exhibit that's July 21st through September 6th. And I highly recommend you come check that out. And then lastly, if you have never been to Murray Hudson's Antique Maps, Globes, Books, and Prints in Halls, Tennessee, number one, you have got to go and check this out. If you've got kids, I mean, this really is like stepping into another world. He has the most incredible collection right there in Halls. We have talked him into loaning us a bunch of this for an exhibit called The Fascinating World of Murray Hudson's Globes and Maps. You know, this is just one of his warehouses. He has warehouses of these things. Some of them are incredibly old and incredibly valuable, and some of them are not so valuable, but they're incredibly beautiful. So there are a lot of these are works of art in and of themselves. So I cannot wait, as you can tell, for this exhibit, which launches December 6th. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to see if anybody has any questions.
Yes, don't be shy. I don't see any yet in the chat, but
I know people are always nervous to ask questions. There's always that awkward, like 10 seconds.
Yeah, well, okay. Someone has asked, is Discovery Park of America open to hiring new employees?
Yes, we actually have a couple of positions open right now. If you go to discoveryparkofamerica.com and go down to jobs, you'll see. And, you know, I mean, I think people should never be shy about just sending a resume and saying, hey, here's what I do. If you find anything, you know, if you have any openings, I've worked places before where they didn't necessarily have an opening to fit somebody like me. So I think you can just shoot a resume anytime.
Awesome. Other questions? I have a question. So I loved what you said about realizing that people just want the content and that it doesn't have to be so polished. Because I think that, you know, I think as a business owner, a lot of times you want it to be perfect. You want it to have the tone and all that stuff that, you know, you've worked hard to build and create, especially, you know, an organization like Discovery Park. And you guys do have an awesome team that makes great content. But I think that's such good information to say that people just want it, you know, so you don't necessarily have to take all the time to make it perfect. I mentioned your TikTok earlier, and I want to bring it back up because I think that that's, you know, I think that TikTok has been kind of crazy in the way that it's making video so much more, even more than YouTube has for all different generations, something that we're looking at more. So tell us a little bit about like how and why you decided to go ahead and, because you have a TikTok that's separate from Discovery Parks, is that right? There are two?
Yeah. Well, Discovery Park has its own TikTok, and
Okay.
you know, for I don't know, it'd be interesting if we were in a room together. I would say raise your hand if you're on TikTok, because it is, you know, it for a long time it was a younger person's game. There are more and more seasoned professionals who are choosing to get on TikTok. You know, I don't sing and dance and, you know, act stupid, because I do have to present a certain image, but I do think it is a great opportunity for me to extend the mission of Discovery Park of America beyond the traditional um, tools that we can use. So, every other day, maybe 3 or 4 times a week, I'll do a today in history, and you have 60 seconds. And so to make it interactive, I just, give a little hint and ask, who do you think, who did this on this date? Answer in the comments. And so, I've got about, a measly 800 followers, but that's 800 people who get exposed to what we do here at Discovery Park. I had a video on women's suffrage. We have an exhibit on women's suffrage. So I ask a trivia question or a history question related to suffrage. And it got about 20,000 views. So, if I can get 20,000 people aware of Discovery Park and inspired to hopefully check out more about that particular topic, then I have done what the Kirklands originally wanted Discovery Park of America to do. It literally takes 10 minutes,
Totally, yeah.
to do. And sometimes I mean, and I won't lie, I really do have fun doing it. So that's another big reason why I'm doing it, is because it's fun.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that, you mentioned it being a younger person. I'm almost 40, and yeah, it took me a minute to kind of get on TikTok, but now it's like, I mean, I've learned a ton of stuff on there. And it's interesting because, thinking about an organization like Discovery Park, I think a lot of it is like how many local people, would see it and catch on. But I mean, you're right, like hitting the mission, people can learn and benefit just from that content you put out there, even if they don't ever actually make their way to Discovery Park. Now, they might be more apt to, next time they're taking a trip around this way. But and I don't know, I think it's awesome to kind of expand content like that.
Well, and that's the point, is I do each one of these in a gallery. I look for a fact, a today in history that relates to something in a gallery in Discovery Park. And, the thing about Discovery Park is it is like a cabinet of curiosities. In the, 1800s, Europeans had a cabinet, which meant a room of things they collected all over the world. So seashells, paintings, pottery, and that was their cabinet of curiosities. Well, that's what all of Discovery Park is like. So I love it when people on TikTok they post, where in the heck is this place? Because that is really what it is all about, is having people ask the question, where the heck is this place?
Yeah, and how amazing to say, rural West Tennessee. And people be like, what? That's crazy.
Right. And we do have to work a little harder than if we were in Atlanta, or even Memphis, or Nashville. We have to work a lot harder to get each and every guest here. So we work really hard to make sure, A, they have an incredible customer service experience, and B, they go home and word of mouth. And if you look at our TripAdvisor reviews, absolutely, people are blown away. Each and every post about Discovery Park is, absolutely raving about their experience, every aspect of it. So we have to work really hard. I had somebody, I saw one post not too long ago that said they had recently been to the Ark up in Kentucky, and that the Discovery Park bathrooms were significantly cleaner than those in the Ark. So,
I mean, especially in the middle of a pandemic, those things matter. Okay.
Absolutely.
Like those things
Absolutely.
matter.
And
We did have a question.
Tasha
Yes.
asked if you need a fishing license. And you do. You can get a day fishing license. If you go to discoveryparkofamerica.com/fishing, we link over to where you can get a license and you can apply online. People actually come and get their fishing license on their phone. It's a 1-day, maybe 3-day fishing license while they're there. So
Cool. All right. Any other questions? If not, thank you so much, Scott, for being here. This was great to be able to hear from you. And I do want to put the plug in for the next Spark event. It's going to be March 11th, and Dave Delaney will be back. He did a Grow with Google, and he's back to do another Grow with Google series on using YouTube. So I know we just talked a lot about TikTok and creating video content that way. So we're excited to have him and to do that event next month. But thank you so much, Scott, for being here. Thank you all who joined us today, and hope that you were able to learn some things. We'll see you next time.
And I put my email address in the thing.
Awesome.
Anybody wants to communicate, just shoot me an email. And thank you all. It was good to see you all. It was fun hanging out with you.